Good morning. Good morning. Today, our intention is to continue to reflect on the summer's theme of being open and willing, moving toward courageous connections. There's a common thread that the three of us share, the three behind me. We're all librarians. In fact, a few of the many that are members of our church. We'd like to share our individual reflections as to how we negotiated the major change midway through our careers, the onset of technology. So, forget about your overdue books and the novel you intended to finish by now. Relax and enjoy this wonderful space for an hour.
May this light, symbol of our faith, help us remember that hope goes hand in hand with change.
Welcome to today's service. We're honored to have guests with us. Our members would like to greet you following the service, so that we might do so. If you are visiting, please raise your hand. Let's see, hey. Hello, visitors, great. Members, please take note of the guests seated near you. After the service, invite them to join you for coffee and conversation in Freeman Hall. Now, should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find both a large print order of service and a personal hearing assistance device on the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. Now, if you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out a yellow card. And those are at the end of the rows. If you've got a yellow card, you know, okay. So, please fill out a yellow card and place your completed card in an offering basket when they are passed later in the service. So for now, just move them down the row. And members with a life event to share can do so on the reverse side of the card. You'll find them, along with the offering envelopes, on the clipboards at the end of the row. Please begin passing them down your row now. Okay, well, there's my script. Okay, you know, you're not a bird, don't wing it. Okay. Some returning visitors may be interested in hearing about how to become a member. If so, talk with our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. There's Kelly. Her contact information is on the back of your order. Again, to each of you, welcome.
The only way that we can live is if we grow. The only way we can grow is if we change. The only way that we can change is if we learn. The only way we can learn is if we are exposed. And the only way that we can become exposed is if we throw ourselves out into the open. Do it. Throw yourself. So, hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm a media specialist. As a young person, I had this notion that my purpose, my life's work, would somehow find me. I would wake up one day and I would just know. I felt like adults were always asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I had my pat response ready, a veterinarian, a writer, an artist. But honestly, I didn't hold much stock in any of those answers. I knew in my secret heart that something would drift my way or emerge in my being, or better yet, my brilliance in some direction would be discovered in this blinding flash of light, and I'd be mentored along towards my destiny. That hasn't really happened. When college finally made me claim a path, I became an English major, a wonderful 4 years of reading and writing and diving deep. But when I graduated, I wasn't any closer to knowing my destiny than before. I waited tables. I dabbled in work completely unrelated to my abilities. I discovered an aptitude for talking my way into jobs. I was an organ demonstrator, and I can barely play the piano. That's one example. After enough of that, I went back to school for my teaching degree. I loved books. I liked young people. I would teach high school English. That was about the extent of my thought process. I think I was still waiting for that flash of light. But I did love teaching. I loved sophomore English, and especially the creative writing classes. But when I became pregnant with my daughter, my energy flagged. The constant weight of teaching English, 3 hours worth of papers to grade, comment on, use a rubric, it just seemed like a bad idea with little kids at home. My mother-in-law was a veteran teacher, and she told me that she had always wished that she had become a librarian. So, being at home, deep into the genius of Dr. Seuss and David Shannon and Ferdinand the Bull, the idea of sharing stories and getting kids excited about books seemed like a really wonderful, creative, purposeful way to spend my days. And it has been. Except over the years, the introducing kids to books part has become only a fraction of what I do now. To remain relevant, welcome. To remain relevant in the age of Google and digital information, the title librarian has been changed to media specialist. For a few years, principals were given the option of trading us more expensive master's degree media specialists for 2 assistant positions, and a lot of them traded us away. The rest of us took on as many duties as we could to increase our value, tap dancing as fast as we could to make it harder to live without us. In many cases, those additional duties were added to our already big workload, but nobody could say no. Our mantra became, be flexible and do whatever is necessary. And although the fear attached to this approach was kind of stressful, it made it impossible not to grow and to learn. The curriculum taught today in the library is now based mostly around technology. We teach increasingly younger kids how to use their devices. Kindergartners are taught to use iPads. But more importantly, we help kids learn how to sift through the massive information there to find what they need. Teaching the thinking skills behind those decisions is challenging. But more challenging for me is staying on top of the changing options in digital technology. As a media specialist, I have to hold a leadership role in my school, but I'll admit, as somebody who's nearing 60, it's difficult, maybe even impossible, to stay ahead of the technological aptitude and especially the ease with technology of a lot of our 20-year-old teachers. Most of you have probably heard the native versus immigrant analogy about the digital world. The people born after about 1980 who have always had digital technology in their lives are natives to it in a way that those of us who grew up old school will never be. I'm an immigrant to technology. It's a second language to me. I can be proficient, but I will never approach it with the ease and the playfulness that the natives can. So where does that leave me? In a place of learning hard every day, to be sure, but also needing to freshly value my strengths. I teach the digital piece to children because they do need those skills to be successful in life and in school for sure. But I relish even more the chances to read stories with them, to go down a rabbit hole with a 3rd grade boy about dinosaur extinction, to sing with my kindergartners. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. That's the first song that I teach them. And another one is, I'm picking up a baby bumblebee. That's another favorite. The part they love most is when you get to pretend to squish the baby bumblebee. They love that. And to tell the truth, that's where my heart is. Thank you.
begin with some words of Frederick Buechner. We've heard them before from this space, but they're so apropos for today's service, and I'll say them again. You are called to the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. As a definition of calling, you are called to the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. And good morning, I'm Tom Cole. I'm a librarian in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg system, your public library. And I have a story about, well, my deep gladness and what happened when I met the world's deep hunger. Yeah. In 2009, in response to 9 years ago now, in 2009, in response to the fast-growing economic crisis, the library opened a job help center. I was shifted from my usual role in the local history and genealogy room to the new center, where I formed part of a crew of a half a dozen employees specifically deployed to assist job seekers. I spent a year there adjusting my skills to their needs. I saw people confronting barriers to employment like having a criminal record or lacking good literacy and math skills. These are things I could have anticipated, although they hit me in a different way when it was my job not just to understand these barriers, but to help the person in front of me overcome them. My experience in the Job Help Center also gave me a new perspective on technological change. Almost all my public service involved looking over people's shoulders as they worked at the public computers. Sometimes I'd take over the mouse or even the keyboard for folks as they needed it. I found that the internet, far from leveling the playing field, reinforced the exclusion of those with the most disadvantages, contrary to my expectations. For instance, on public computers, the browsers can't remember your password, but every employer requires you to set up an account and locks you out if you guess wrong too many times. Multi-page applications would time out if one took too long to answer the questions on one page. The applicant would then lose his or her work, which was the cause of rage or tears more than once in my experience. Anyone been there? Yeah, okay. One man, when faced with the length and complexity of the application for a pet store chain, exclaimed, "I just want to wash dogs!" You know? All of us were unfamiliar with the skills for online searching and filling out forms at one time. I mean, this is all new to us at one time. We learned from experience. If we enjoyed regular access to a connected computer and familiarity with a keyboard, and if we shopped, entertained ourselves, or socialized online, we came to understand the conventions and terminology of web pages. Such experience, however, depends on income, residential stability, and education. People who can't count on those preconditions may find themselves forced to learn computer skills in a hurry, under stress, and in public. I could not change, well, I'm going to skip to the other part. I want to for better or for worse, the fundamental things about a society persist. Ever more powerful devices for communication and computation have become ubiquitous in recent years. Our use of them has transformed our routines. It is easy to call this a new era and to indulge either in techno-optimism or in techno-doomsaying. In either case, the assumption is that the technology drives the rest of society. I'm here to say, let's not let ourselves off the hook. We still have the responsibility and even the opportunity to shape society to our values. Better, faster ways of doing what we've already done means that we're still doing what we've already done, whether that's to create opportunity or to increase inequality. I could not change the big picture that stacked the deck against these visitors to the library. I could hardly assure them that filling out applications would lead to a job, although we had some success stories. I could, however, give them a moment of human connection. I started copying the practice of one colleague who, when asked to help with some computer problem, would say, "Let's figure this out," and walk with the patron back to his or her seat. Once alongside the job seeker, I would be privy to details of their life story as they filled out a resume. I tried to listen and advise as respectfully as I could, and was sometimes rewarded with a handshake or with a smile of recognition the next time we saw each other. I'd love to tell you that I or the library proved to be turning points in their lives, but I'll never know. These encounters did change me, however. I can't blame the victim so easily now as before, or wall off other people's suffering from my responsibility. Maybe that's all I can ask of myself as an individual, to show respect and remember the common humanity between myself and the person in need. Gosh, is that it? I won't change anything that way. No, I won't. Not by myself, at least. Part of realizing the limits of what one can do as an individual is realizing that there is more, much more, that I can do, that we can do in partnership with others. I'm glad I belong to a church that is plotting just such a course for itself. Aren't you? Okay. Thank you for your time. It's been nice to have you.
Good morning. The reading behind me says, "Dear boys and girls, congratulations on the new library, because it isn't just a library. It's a spaceship that will take you to the farthest reaches of the universe, a time machine that will take you to the far past and the far future, a teacher that knows more than any human being, a friend that will amuse you and console you, and most of all, a gateway to a better and happier and more useful life." Signed, Isaac Asimov, on March 16, 1971, to the young patrons of a newly opened public library in Troy, Michigan. Hi, I'm Camilla Mazzotta. I'd like to begin this final reflection by sharing with you my roundabout path to librarianship, my personal gateway to a better and happier and more useful life. I've been a public school librarian in elementary schools for going on 18 years now, but it wasn't my first career. The first chunk of my working life was as a computer programmer up north. After years of coding, I recognized that I was absolutely unfulfilled and needed more from my job. Not only that, but I jumped with a start every time the phone rang, my knee-jerk response to being on call for middle-of-the-night program crashes for far too many years. So I used my family's ensuing move to Charlotte as a reason to call it quits. Being a newbie here, I gravitated to volunteering in the media center at my children's school. This transition was a natural one for me, as the cozy, old, brownstone public library in my hometown was a hangout of choice when I was a kid. To this day, I can smell its close air, visualize the stacks of books illuminated by light filtering through the tall Gothic windows, and even picture Miss Hatch, the gentle children's librarian back then. This sacred space, brimming with wonderful books and offering outstanding activities, continued to play a big role in the lives of my own children. With this pull from my past, my media center volunteering in Charlotte slowly morphed into pursuing a degree in library science from UNCG. I needed a new career path, and this one fed my interests and my soul. Once the degree was under my belt, I scored a job at Sharon Elementary. It's the position I still have, and it's a stone's throw from our church. When I began, a librarian's teaching curriculum stressed things such as genres of books, author studies, types of reference books, poetry, and on and on. All those were the things I connected with and so enjoyed sharing with kids. Technology was present then, but not pervasive. Remember cassette players, overhead projectors, boom boxes, and such? One by one, these old technologies bit the dust and were replaced by the capabilities of a computer. As time passed and the technological transformation became unavoidable midway through my career, I had to come to terms with these new changes. Indeed, it had become the lion's share of a media specialist's newly rewritten curriculum. I wrestled with, was I too old for this? Could I keep up with the shift? Did the job still feel like a good fit for me? Would my best be good enough for my kids? My initial discomfort with the sea change has mostly relaxed now. There will always be more to know, so mining the useful and relevant from recent innovations and the good old days has become my saving grace. I can pretty much pin this courageous reimagining of my career on a single defining experience. Several years ago, our PTA had purchased something called a smartboard. It's an interactive whiteboard that did everything except make your lunch. It sat in the media center, ready to be checked out by teachers, but none did, for an understandable reason. It was frankly a royal pain to set up. Surprisingly, to me especially, that smartboard called out to me, and I responded. I trusted the trend that said this was a beneficial hunk of technology. Little by little, the two of us came to terms, and I discovered its many benefits. Indeed, it's now at the core of my teaching, and I'd be lost without it. Chalk one up for technology. This is just a single example of how I came to terms with my profession's overhaul. It was either be open to something new or be outmoded. And importantly, not only do I have to use technology, but I need to grasp it well enough in order to break it down and teach it to my students. Granted, as Lisa mentioned, kids may be digital natives, but we librarians are needed now more than ever to teach kids how to use software and hardware well, how to evaluate the mountains of information and indeed fake news they are faced with. Ever-changing technologies are just tools to support kids with their information needs and their pleasure reading. And both of these things have always been at the core of what we do in libraries. In sum, I'm glad to have dug in when I thought I'd be coasting, and I can still call myself a relevant librarian. Thank you.
Hello again. We call your attention to the announcements. We call your attention to the announcements in the back of today's order of service. especially the following. Visitors are invited to an informal Getting to Know Us session with the UU Church of Charlotte member following the service. Please grab a cup of coffee. Meet us downstairs in the conference room directly below the sanctuary. We continue with our Sunday Fun Days today at 11:30, when we'll offer the creation of a group work of art in Freeman Hall, facilitated by Sherry Sample. All are invited. Tomorrow evening, 7 p.m., please join us for the Uncommon Art Project, also facilitated by Sherry Sample. We'll create uncommon art using some common household items. Visit the adult programming table in Freeman Hall following the service for more information and to sign up. And the last thing I want to underline for you is that we are working on an update to our UUCC website. An email was sent to members last week asking for responses to a brief survey on how to improve the site. The group would like to have all completed surveys by the end of the day, Tuesday, August 7th. And you can take care of that even today by going over to a table at Freeman Hall, where the task group is staffing it after the service, and you can respond to the survey right then and there. Please see Mike O'Sullivan. There you go. Thank you, Mike. Please see Mike O'Sullivan there if you have not yet submitted your response. More information is available for these and additional events in your order of service on our Currents webpage and access through the UUCC website. In a congregation of our size, we have many joys and concerns. We hold in our hearts and prayers our members, their families, and caregivers with ongoing challenges in their lives. During the offering music and the passing of the baskets, everyone is invited to light a candle to mark a celebration, a concern, or remembrance.
Please join me in a meditation, a chance for us to be together in breath and spirit in this beautiful space. Sit comfortably, your feet grounded. Take a deep breath in and release. Do that again. Feel the beat of your heart, the rhythm of your body settling. Breathe. Lao Tzu said, "Life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like." Let it be so.
Comedian, author, and commentator Paula Poundstone once admitted, "The truth is, libraries are raucous clubhouses of free speech, controversy, and community." In my mind, that very statement could be proudly made of our church. If this space, these walls, our community, and the breadth of the experiences that you have here are meaningful in your life, please consider that as you make this morning's offering.
Please rise in body and in spirit and join me in a reading of words before you and as an affirmation of our faith. Challenged by our liberating faith, we discover deeper spiritual meaning, nurture loving community, cultivate courageous connections, and partner in the work of justice.
Change is hard. It's about acceptance and growth, and it's about letting go. From Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, "For after all, the best thing one can do when it is raining is let it rain." Amen.